Envisioning COVID in Colorado if we don't make it to herd immunity. Cases and hospitalizations remain relatively high here, even as they have dropped elsewhere across America. Looks like no consequences for the state legislator who called a colleague buckwheat, even after his racial comment got national attention. Making our streets more comfortable for people outside cars. We sort of started that by accident during the pandemic, so now what do we do with these spaces? And a conversation about the rules for Colorado's billboards. This guy's got a heck of a view, like your view of next. No herd immunity. That prediction this week from national public health experts that we might not be able to reach herd immunity because of people refusing the COVID-19 vaccine, that came as a gut punch to a lot of folks. Because, I mean, herd immunity, even for people who have been skeptical or critical of pandemic restrictions, herd immunity was seen as like the end game, where eventually we could move beyond the virus. Tonight, Anusha Roy explains what Colorado would look like without herd immunity, and whether we're giving up on this too soon.
Eating out, baseball, hugs, and seeing family again. Doctors keep saying we have the answer out of this pandemic. Vaccines. But the state said demand for vaccines has been going down while the supply is stabilizing. Infectious disease specialists are talking about what Colorado could look like if herd immunity remains out of reach. And there are a couple of scenarios that could play out.
Another spike in the fall. We could have people quarantined. We could have people wearing masks for a long, long time.
It is possible that this will become just part of our normal respiratory viruses that we encounter on a regular basis.
Doctors even said take a look at life now. This in-between phase of people fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, and no vaccines, and consider that a snapshot of what life could be like.
I think we're experiencing the reality of a robust vaccination effort so far that isn't complete.
I think it'll probably be more draconian than what we're seeing now.
That last point is important because doctors say the severity of the virus, hospitalizations, case counts, opening up Colorado even more, and what COVID precautions we follow all links back to vaccines. It will also help determine if we find ourselves back in a similar limbo.
If the vaccination rate isn't high enough, we try a certain level of opening, and all of a sudden there's an outbreak with a bad outcome. People will start to reel back, start to pull back.
Doctors are talking about it now.
Once you have it, I just think that you become an advocate, and hopefully a vocal advocate, to continue to just show that it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about making a community safe.
Because the race to get vaccinated isn't over yet.
And so, the state was talking about the demand dropping off, but they said that people are still signing up for vaccines, so that total number is still going up. But it's important to remember that Colorado is not isolated in all of this. So if we don't see enough vaccines and vaccination rates across the country, then that becomes a problem for all the states here. And, and it's more than just what's happening with the U.S. I know, Kyle, we've talked about this before. Again, it's also about paying attention to what's happening in other countries, especially as people start traveling.
Mm-hmm. And, Anusha, when we talk about getting the vaccine to people where they are, the other day I made an offhand comment to somebody, they should just set up somebody with syringes outside of every patio in Lodo, and a bunch of people would probably just go, oh, fine, yeah, I'll take the vaccine, yeah, I guess. But it is about getting it to people where they are.
Yeah, like make like a one-stop shop, make it super easy. Dr. Zane actually brought up a very similar idea, Kyle, talking about what if there were mobile vaccine clinics at baseball games and other sporting games, and just make it as easy as possible for places that people are going to anyway, because accessibility is going to be a really big factor here. The other thing they're also keeping a really close eye on is going to be kids, right? And what the case rate is among kids, how do you get them vaccinated, which of course the FDA has anticipated to make some changes on that eligibility for how young you can be to get some of these vaccines.
Thought is clear down to 12 years old for one of the vaccines pretty soon. Anusha, thank you. The state's latest modeling predicts that we would need between 67 and 80% of Coloradans vaccinated in order to reach herd immunity. It's a moving target as they track how quickly the disease is moving, the variants and so forth. Right now, we're almost halfway there, almost 35% of the population vaccinated. It's more than 2 million Coloradans, and another 637,000 are waiting on their second doses. Pregnant women have been understandably cautious about the vaccine, and that is why state health experts came out today with what the CDC is sharing, that 30,000 pregnant women have self-reported their medical information after getting the vaccine. No major issues reported. The CDC says that it's pretty clear COVID-19 is the greater risk to pregnant women.
So far, those data are very reassuring. There's no signs of higher risk of any pregnancy complications in women who get vaccinated. That includes miscarriage, early delivery, low birth weight. We do know that pregnant women who get infected with COVID-19 are at higher risk of complications compared with women who are not pregnant. This can sometimes lead to really tough situations where pregnant women are in the ICU, needing to be on a ventilator, sometimes separated from their infants because they're too sick to even see their babies after delivery.
The variant of the virus that is tearing through India right now has been detected in Colorado for the first time. 5 cases in Mesa County. None of those people has traveled recently, suggesting that that more easily transmitted variant is spreading now within the community. None of this should be a surprise. The early research does suggest that the vaccines are still effective against that variant first detected in India. So now Denver is going to come in line with the state's rule allowing people to drop masks indoors where at least 80% of people are vaccinated. And restaurant employees, those folks who have worked tirelessly through the pandemic, masked nonstop, Denver says they can remove their masks if 85% of restaurant staff are vaccinated. Denver's still going to hold on to mask rules for grocery stores as well as retail stores. They figure there's no way to know how many of the people circulating in and out are vaccinated. Our hospitals are still dealing with a persistently high number of patients, the most in Colorado since the winter spike of the virus. 661 COVID patients. That is down 5 from yesterday, but up 33 from this time last week. The Republican state representative who called a colleague buckwheat yesterday, the latest in a string of offensive remarks by this man, looks like he will escape any kind of sanction or punishment. Republican leaders brushed off or ignored our questions about Representative Richard Holtorf of Akron, and the Democratic House Speaker just offered a scolding on the House floor this morning.
I heard last night about how one word took this member of our body back to a place that they thought they had outlived. Let that sink in. Here in the body, in the House of Representatives, one word took them back to a place that they hoped would never reappear, feelings of a darker time.
Republican House Leader Hugh McKean would not answer my questions today about whether fellow Republicans might sanction Holtorf in some way, and the state Republican Party did not respond to my request for comment on this. Before he called a colleague buckwheat, Holtorf had previously told a Democratic legislator that he needed to get over the murder of his son in the Aurora Theater shooting. The state is considering changes to billboard rules. Marshall Zellinger has the story from a home where a billboard rules.
I've lived here for 9 months now.
There are 3 things that matter when choosing a property. Location, location, location.
It's kind of motivational.
You might call the location of this billboard at Colorado and Evans innovative.
Figured the view isn't that great anyway, so might as well have a billboard.
Isaac Sanu had the right idea when he took a discount to move into an apartment built facing a billboard that was there first.
They told me right when I was looking for a 1-bedroom that there's one for $100 less with a billboard. So I was like, sure, I'll take a look at it.
Coincidentally, there is a billboard bill just introduced at the Capitol, though it has nothing to do with Isaac's view.
The department felt that it was an important thing to create these content neutral rules around they're saying yes or no to billboards.
Republican Senator Jim Smallwood is a sponsor of a bill that will modify the state's Outdoor Advertising Act. You see, CDOT regulates advertising along state highways. Currently, if the sign or billboard is advertising for something not available where the sign or billboard is located, a permit is needed. CDOT is being sued over the denial of a recent permit. This bill would change state law. Instead of CDOT asking the sign owner if what they plan on putting on the sign is offered on-premise, which does not require a permit, or off-premise, which does require a permit, they'll ask if a sign owner is being paid. If so, a permit will be required without CDOT knowing what will appear on the sign.
The department has to make a determination as to what is outdoor advertising and what is not. What is a sign and what is not? What is a billboard and what is not? And apparently there are folks, especially if you've talked to them, that feel like the department's not doing as good a job with that as they can. And the department's come to me saying, we need help with the language so that we can do a better job with that.
The bill does not appear to change the flight path that the Wright brothers have taken off Colorado Boulevard.
I think this will be the one and only year of my life that I have a billboard staring at me.
That billboard is not rotated. Apparently before that innovation one, it was a Garth Brooks billboard with the eyes right through the window. Anyways, this bill is being promoted as a content neutral bill, taking away any concern that permit decisions are based on the content of the sign or the billboard. The business community under this bill would have to show proof whether or not they're taking money for what's on the sign or billboard, and that, Kyle, could be the hiccup of that bill.
I didn't want to laugh, but I couldn't help myself. By the way, happy birthday, Marshall. I bought you a billboard to celebrate. Go look out your living room window. We've been talking about what y'all would like to keep from the pandemic days, and what's everybody thinking about the streets that are now used for restaurant patios and hangout space?
There's a whole lot we can be doing with that space besides driving and storing cars.
There is a Dutch word for this. Kind of sounds like you stubbed your toe while talking. You won't forget it once you hear it next. Chalk up a rare positive for the pandemic in the way that we have reimagined our public spaces. To that end, Denver is going to let restaurants keep their expanded patios for another year. In some cases, that means keeping streets closed in order to make places where people can hang out, have a drink, eat. Imagining that future taught our Steve Steger a fun new word.
For years, city planners and Safe Streets advocates have pushed for this, shutting down some streets to cars so that people can walk around. It took a pandemic to get more people on board.
For those of us in the industry, it was like, see, told ya.
Andrew Ildis is a mobility planner for the Downtown Denver Partnership.
You got to take the wins when they come, right?
Jill Locantori, the executive director of the Denver Streets Partnership. She's been preaching this for years.
About 80% of our public space in cities are streets. And there's a whole lot we can be doing with that space besides driving and storing cars.
Denver's temporary patio extensions for restaurants will now last through October of next year. That program has closed 6 roads to traffic, including Larimer and Larimer Square.
Once you get on a street like this, all of a sudden you can hear other people talking, you can hear laughter, you can hear doors opening and closing. You start to gain more of a sense of where you are. You don't have that constant rumble from one direction or another.
So what's the future beyond 2022 for places like this? The city isn't making anything official. We could see some permanent closures. We could also see some more concepts with a funny name, Woonerf, a Dutch word for street design that makes some roads uncomfortable for drivers.
When you slow cars down enough and you really create an environment that is for people walking, probably some for people biking, that cars become the guests of the space.
There's a pretty good example of a Woonerf on 39th Avenue between Franklin and Williams, near the new 39th Avenue Greenway. The road is narrow, meant for cars to slow down and share the road. Just a possible option I had to point out, partially because I love saying the word Woonerf.
I think there is an opportunity here that we should be looking at very seriously going forward, and hopefully figure out how to blur those lines a little bit further.
Advocates for safer streets will have to keep fighting, but the way we've been living for the past year and a half may make that fight a little easier.
sometimes it's hard for people to imagine what change will look like, and so they resist it ahead of time.
You have to have a place like this for people to start to fall in love with it.
For Next, I'm Steve Stager. VooNerf.
The city says there has not been a major traffic impact that they have registered from any of the 6 streets closed by the program, so relatively painless VooNerfing. And the city has not received any additional applications for new street closures for patios this summer. Denver is trying a new approach to address homelessness, buying a whole motel. The city's well short of its goal, trying to find open rooms for people who need them. And I respect this effort. A police officer might not, but I do. Next. Denver's adding 94 more motel rooms to house people who don't have a home in this city, though the city is still nowhere near its original goal that it set last summer. The city is buying a former motel on East 38th in Montbello. First time they've done something like this. Democratic Representative Diana DeGette's trying to land $2 million in federal taxpayer money to pay for some of that. The city estimates it would cost $4.6 million to buy and renovate that property into a place where people who are homeless can live. The plan would be for it to be used like a shelter for 2 years and then converted into supportive housing. So you'd have long-term housing units with community services right there on site. Mayor Hancock set a goal of getting 3,500 motel and hotel rooms opened up to the estimated 4,000 people in the city who are homeless. A year later, the city acknowledges it does not have a third that number of rooms. There are about 1,000 rooms in use. The city is now describing this 3,500 room goal as more of like a rough estimate, and they roll in the number of people that they have in shelters around the city. So the city is now saying they're able to house altogether more than 3,000 people.
Sunshine and 70s today. We go 10 degrees warmer tomorrow. We're going to see 80s in downtown Denver. Compliments of a high-pressure ridge, which keeps the storm track to the north of us for now. But there is a cold front upstream, and it is coming in timed for Mother's Day. What's up with that? Tonight, dry and mild, our low at 45. Tomorrow, sunny, our high at 82. A few thunderstorms Saturday, a better chance of rain from storms Sunday, and cold enough that the heavy rain on Monday could mix with snow in Denver by Tuesday morning. How's that for a spring forecast?
It's a message to police officers in lieu of a license plate. It is a sign, plus your feedback. Next. It's a sign. More of a public pledge, really. Andy was driving through Belmar yesterday when he spotted this message in place of a license plate. The sign says, DMV appointment 513. Drivers like practically begging not to get pulled over and ticketed for missing the plate before they can go get their new plates. Or maybe it's a lie, I don't know. This is your periodic reminder that handwritten signs, which we see somewhat frequently, are not a legal replacement for temp tags or license plates. But A for effort on this one. That's the first time that I've seen the appointment date actually written out there. Email next at 9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext if you see a sign that you want everyone else to see. Lots of feedback tonight on the fact that Republican State Representative Richard Holtorf appears to be skating after he referred to a colleague on the House floor as buckwheat. Marshall writes in, not our Marshall, different Marshall. I'm conservative on most measures, Marshall says, and there is nothing conservative about Representative Holtorf's deplorable comment. C says, nice race bait, Kyle, trying to divide people. Telling you what he said is